Hey guys, welcome back to the Max Spence Business Podcast. Today I have a very special guest, but before I jump into that, if you guys like the content I'm putting out, the people I'm interviewing, please like, subscribe, leave a review. It helps out a ton with the podcast and also the people that are coming on the show. If you can go over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review, that helps out a ton as well. So without further ado, today's guest is Adrien Beyk. So he's the founder and CEO of Quanta Vici. I don't know if that, I'll get you to say it again because I'm terrible with like reading things. And he's also an enthusiast, AI enthusiast, engineering, all that sort of stuff. So we're going to have a conversation about, his company. He's doing some really cool stuff in the tech space, and then also his background as well. So why don't we, why don't we just start at the beginning? It's great having you on the show, Adrien.
Thank you for having me, Max. I'm really excited. We're going to be talking about some really cool stuff today, and I hope I can create some value for the audience.
Awesome. So for people that maybe don't know who you are, haven't heard about, what you're doing in the tech space, why don't we just start from the beginning? Like, where did you grow up, and what sort of got you into entrepreneurship?
Well, at this point, I doubt there's anyone who doesn't know about me. Okay, yeah, sure. So I grew up here in Toronto. I was actually born in Iran. I grew up in North York, Toronto. I went to middle school here, I went to high school here, and then I went to Ryerson University, where I got my degree in computer engineering. My first go at entrepreneurship was back when I didn't even know what entrepreneurship means, literally the word. And it was when I was 15 years old, being with my father being an engineer, he always showed me how cool LEDs are, how cool programming is. And I've always been kind of obsessed with creativity, making stuff in all sorts of different things, whether it's playing around with a piano or a guitar or just painting something random that doesn't mean anything. I just love creativity. And as I grew up, what really got me interested was solving problems in a creative manner that helps people. So when I was 15 years old, I started working on this project. It was an image editing software. And I'm going to try to not sound obnoxious and nerdy. Like when I was 15 years old, I made my first product. For 1 year, I was programming. It wasn't even a project that I wanted to release. It was an experiment for me. I was trying to develop different filters. I was understanding how to code. And after a year, it just turned into this beautiful package that I was using for my own projects. Whenever I wanted to edit an image, I would use that. And, I was like, why not release this? It would be so exciting to push this and see who would like it. And that was an amazing experience, because here I was, this passionate teenager who didn't have anything to lose, living at home, having free time on my hand, and also being obsessed with experimenting with different ideas. And I started understanding what it takes to release a software. Nowadays, it's I don't want to say it's easier, but when you want to launch an app right now, say Windows, say Android, iOS, they all have these beautiful app stores. Back then, back in my day, it was just these random websites. So I had to make a list of them, go on each of them, and then I would see what they would expect you to provide. That was when I understood the importance of marketing and customer relation. And again, like I was just 15 years old, I had put together the software and I was trying to get people to use it. And it was a really interesting journey. Long story short, it got a few million downloads. I did not make any money. Fortunately, I didn't lose any money other than my time. And I wouldn't say my time was lost. It was the most amazing learning experience, just putting in a few hours every week into something that amounts to something amazing after a while. It's the best. And I learned a lot. I learned the importance of marketing. I learned how you can run ads, drive traffic, raise awareness, target audiences, and a thousand ways to fail. And that's what kind of really prepared me for Quanta Vici. Of course, Quanta Vici was, it's a behemoth of a task. It's not even a task. It's crazy because, for those, obviously, there are very few people who haven't heard about Quanta Vici, but for those who haven't, Quanta Vici is a smart wearable company. The first products we have launched are smart heated gloves and socks. And, heated wearables have been around for a long time. We started working on this project back in 2017. And the reason we started working on this project was because my friend at the time was suffering from migraine attacks that were so severe, it would disable her in terms of being able to study, go to work and such. So we looked into different remedies, painkillers, other therapeutic solutions. And what worked for her was heated hats. And that was because her migraines were triggered by the cold. And, that kind of took me to research about all of these different types of medical conditions that are negatively affected by cold weather, and understanding why, even though heated wearable is such a cool idea and so useful, why people are not wearing it every day. We did our primary market research, and most people either have owned some type of heated wearable, or they know about it, but no one's using it in their daily life. And that was really interesting for me because, those who had not had their dreams crushed by the poor user experience thought this is an amazing idea, and they would incorporate it in their daily life. So for us, it meant that back in 2017, so in 2020, we launched the product. And during this whole time, it meant that we have to not be yet another brand that is white labeling the same flawed technology. So we went really deep. We researched, we prototyped, we tested and tested and tested until we realized what it really takes for this type of product to be practical in daily life. I can share about that more later, but that's pretty much a summary of my journey so far.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. Like, there's a lot of information in there that we'll jump into and start, picking apart to get like a little bit better understanding. The first thing I want to start off right off the bat is, like, at 15 years old, you were developing your own like like app, or like the app, and coding and all this, like programming and all this stuff at 15 years old, where the majority of people would be, like, I remember when I was 15, I was just like, playing video games, hanging out with friends, like not really focused on, building a company, more focused on just like having fun with friends and stuff. So what sort of propelled you into like, creating a company at such a young, like going down this path of like programming and doing like, it's sort of like a bit of like a Mark Zuckerberg story about like, and Bill Gates, with like, their backstory where they were like, 12 and 13 or 14 in early high school, and they were like coding and stuff, and they just loved coding. But like, how did that interest sort of start? And when did you actually start picking that up and like sit down in front of your computer and actually start like, hey, I want to build something?
That's a really interesting way to look at this experience, because entrepreneurship comes in all sorts of shapes and colors, and levels. I have this funny story. My friend and I were looking to connect with other entrepreneurs, so we went on Meetup, and we saw there's this event. Long story short, we went there, and we started talking to the person who was hosting the event, and it turned out to be some really sketchy deal. The guy was just like posting a bunch of events on Meetup, having everyone come to this single bar just to kind of like get a bit of the cut from the bar, I guess. And so he came over, we were talking, and I think he was also like living around the corner. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he was living in the alley, not to be judgmental. But, and he was like, oh, you're an entrepreneur. Oh, so you're for the entrepreneur event. And that's when we figured out that that event was like for multiple people. And he was like, I'm an entrepreneur too. Like, this is entrepreneurship. And I was like, yeah, sure. So yeah, you know, we have people who are drop shipping that are considered entrepreneurs. Huge respect for them. There are people who are like me, building something from scratch, innovating a brand new product. And there are people who are going as far as making a whole new car system, electric cars, self-driving cars and such. And, you know, for me, a few different things came together. As I said, I really love to be creative and make stuff. When I sit down and I sketch something, for example, for Quanta Vici, the package of our products, I had so much fun designing that. Or even the app, I can't not get my hands dirty when it comes to this type of work. And I have had experience working for other companies too. You know, after graduation, I worked with a few different tech startups from Toronto to New York, and I had some level of creative freedom, but it's limited. You know, a lot of the times you're like, I would love to put in more time to make this work more efficiently and look better. But then if you're following that agile methodology and you have a manager who's like answering to customers, they're like, no, just do your work, go to the next task. And that really kind of, that was hard for me. I'll be honest. That was really hard for me to not be able to, you know, execute my vision. And so, you know, there is that part that you're like, I don't want to have a boss. I want to do my own thing. And then there is that part that you're like, I really like to do this. This is what I want to do. And if I can make money from it, then great. If I can't, then whatever, you know, this is what I want to do. And the other thing for me was hearing from some people say that you can't do this. That always really gets me going. You know, it's like, I'll show you, you know? So all of those things came together at back in high school. You know, my buddy, he was like, Pixel Degrees started from a concept project. I was like, hey, I can make a simpler version of Photoshop. And that's kind of like, that was like the selling point of Pixel Degrees. It was like, we offer all of these common advanced features that are available on Photoshop, but then you have this very simple user interface. And my friend, so like 1 week after developing the concept, my friend was like, oh yeah, whatever, like you're not gonna finish this, you know, you never finish anything. You just like, you're ADHD, you pick on random projects and you leave them before getting it somewhere meaningful. And it's like, you hear a lot of things, you know, I've heard way worse things from my friends. That was nothing, but you know, that kind of stuck with me. I was like, I kind of imagine, what if I keep working on this and get it to a polished state that other people would be delighted to use. And that was one thing for me, proving my friends wrong. And the other one was just, I really enjoyed it. I remember I would wake up and I would literally wake up with an idea for a new filter for applying to the images. I would just go experiment. And I think, so Quanta Vici's app, I developed it myself for Android. And the reason I got good at coding was because it was a tool for me to make my ideas come true. You know, like I would come up with this idea for a filter for an image. And the only way I could implement that was by coding it. So I had to understand pixels, RGB values, how, you know, all of these formulas behind image processing. And, you know, as I said, you know, there are entrepreneurs who want to focus only on one thing. They're like, hey, I know some fellow entrepreneurs in the heated wearable industry who only focus on heated wearables and nothing else interests them. But Quanta Vici is not even a heated wearable company. We are a smart wearable company. Our mission statement is expanding the spectrum of human senses and abilities through technologies that are wearable and practical for everyday use. So this is one of them, one of the cases where we are providing a wearable that senses the temperature and expands your abilities by allowing you to stay outside longer. And for me, it's more than just loving one project. I love entrepreneurship. That's why I have my YouTube channel, like sharing my methods and ideas. So yeah, that's kind of where my drives come from.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, that's actually something really interesting that you're talking about with Quanta Vici, is that you guys aren't just like, we aren't just in the, gloves and, sock space. We're actually in like smart wearable technology. And I like in the next 5, 10, 15 years, I think that's going to be like a huge boom, right? Because it's like you're going to be able to buy clothing. It's going to be hooked up to an app or your watch, like shirts and, pants and whatever, right? And let's say it's like really cold out, you're able to turn up the temperature of your clothing, like let's say a jacket or your pants, like snow pants. And like there's so many different applications of this business and sort of business model of like smart wearables, for like, people that are working in the Arctic, researchers that are working in the Arctic, people that are working in, desert environments, for like military, applications as well, for like military soldiers being in the desert, being in extreme conditions. Then you could even go into like, into space, and like, astronauts, like with what they're wearing,
Sure.
right, and regulating their body. So it's like, that's absolutely crazy and amazing to see, like, how far this business can go. So and now talking about engineering and AI, what sort of like it sort of seems like from what I've got so far from you is that you're just somebody who's like really interested, like you have an idea and you just want to express it and you want to create it, right? And what by any means necessary that you have at the current like time, right? And that was like coding. In the future, you're gonna have different tools and different technologies, and you're probably gonna develop new technologies to actually build other products and stuff. But yeah, so it sort of seems like you've always been interested in the engineering AI space. What made you decide to go to Ryerson University for, the engineering?
I'm
Out of
gonna
like,
try to.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna say like out of like other schools, like I'm not too sure. Like I'm not too sure if Ryerson's like has like one of the best programs, or you went there because like one of the profs there was like, somebody who you wanted to study under, or just different reasons.
That's a great question, and you know what? I'm gonna be completely honest, because if there is even one person who's watching this, and there are where I was when I wanted to decide what to do as my next step, having graduated from high school, I want my answer to be helpful. So, you know, I I really wanted to make my own projects. I wanted to understand, engineering. That's the name really implies that acquiring the skills that allow you to build things. Um, to a certain degree, that's true when it comes to going to school for it. But as I learned, unfortunately, and this is not something about Ryerson, this is something that's evident like in all over the world. In engineering specifically, there is a lack of stimulation for creativity. Very few of the engineers who go to school are going to be needed for their creativity. Like creative problem solving, yes, but that's really narrowed down and specific to certain problems. For example, machine learning. Like you go into machine learning, you're like, how can we improve the efficiency of this one algorithm that's specifically for example, dealing with image recognition. As I learned doing engineering, that's what they prepare you for. So if you are like I was, if you are passionate about building things, my honest recommendation is not going to school for it. There's so many amazing classes. For example, when I started learning full stack software development, as I have worked in the field directly, that wasn't something that they teach in school. For those who are familiar with programming languages, for example, Python is not taught in school, like not in the programs I took at least. And in the end, when you are looking for a job or when you're starting your own company, it comes down to skills that you really need. So if you are someone who is self-driven, then my recommendation is consider not going to school. Like sit down, strategize your own curriculum. All the knowledge in the world is free and online right now. Like you have amazing websites like Skillshare, Coursera, and all of these websites that are not sponsored on this episode, of course, but I'm sharing them anyways. But if I could do it all over again, instead of spending 4 or 5 years studying engineering, when I'm thankful for that, the most value I got out of it was discipline, because to finish your degree, you really need to have discipline, back-to-back exams, like thick books, and you have to go through so much material. So like make up your own curriculum and understand what you want to do and what you need to learn and go learn it. But if you don't have the discipline and you need someone to push you, then university would be really good for that, or other programs. And when it comes to Ryerson versus other universities, there's so many people. Being a student, I was kind of angry for a while. I was like, oh my God, this is so annoying. I don't believe in this program and stuff. But as I finished the program and I got more connected to different departments of the institute, I learned how many people there are that are just purely there to help you. They don't want you to pay them. They don't want you to, they're not after anything, they just want to genuinely help. And, specifically about Ryerson, they have this amazing, they call it zone called iBoost zone. And it's specifically an incubator for startups who are in the very early stage. And, early on, I joined that incubator. There are amazing mentors who pushed me to understand what it takes to develop your business plan, what it takes to do market validation, why is it important? Just getting an idea about all of these concepts around entrepreneurship, around launching a new product or service. And I would say that was key to the success of Quanta Vici. We got amazing support from Ryerson University, whether it was in winning an award, whether it was in mentorship, whether it was in developing our business plan or doing market validation, or even connecting us to people who were even 1 year or 1 month ahead of me in my journey. That's amazing. Like I remember when I was just about to get started with our production, I sent an email to the zone and I was like, hey, this is where I am. Do you happen to have anyone in your network that you could introduce me to? And I'm just looking for some advice. And it was amazing. Like they introduced 2 people. I got on the phone with them. They are also entrepreneurs who are doing well for themselves, that they didn't really get anything out of talking to me except just sharing their own knowledge, just being nice about it. And, even till today, I'm seeing value in that 30-minute phone call that I had. So networking, networking is another big aspect when it comes to entrepreneurship or any type of education. And I don't know about other universities. I'm sure like people are people all over the world. If there are people at Ryerson who are so amazing, so generous with their time and knowledge and skills, I'm sure that other universities also have that. And I'm actually, I talk to different profs from different universities, and it's amazing. So, Ryerson does have a special place in my heart, but going in, I was going in for engineering, and I had no idea about the amazing entrepreneurial programs that they have.
Yeah, no, 100%. And to just like summarize quickly, like you dropped a lot of knowledge in that like five minutes of talking there, or like 4 to 5 minutes of talking. And a few things that I want to pick out, and like that I was like, that's actually brilliant points, was one, when you were talking about, don't go to like, if you're a self-disciplined person and you know exactly what you want to do, don't go to university, don't go to college, create your own curriculum of what you want to learn, and then go out and find how to learn it. Cause it's like, it's all out there for free on YouTube, on like, all these other platforms, on Google, and you can learn this all for free. Right. And you can learn this all for free, probably also by working a full-time job too. And if you're lucky enough that, you're able to like be at home and all that sort of stuff, like you could probably do an internship where you work for free in an industry that you're really interested in, in like the tech space, work for free for somebody, and then also be studying all this on the side. And like, by the time you hit 22, your knowledge is going to be absolutely insane. Like you're going to have actual industry knowledge. And then you're also going to be like, actually everything that you've learned, like, let's say it's coding, like Python or anything else that's really specific to that industry. And when you, let's say at 22, when you go to, let's say go find a job, you might actually just work at the company that you've been interning with, or, work for another company. And probably most likely your probably starting salary is going to be pretty high, because you already have like, 4 years of industry knowledge that you got, just by working for free. And then also all that other stuff you learned on the side, or if, let's say, you jump off and start your own company, you're going to be ready to take that on. And then the other thing was that you were talking about, which I loved as well, was like, if you're not too sure where you want to go, and you're not really self-disciplined at the time, going to university or going to college is also a great bet. And there's all these like, that's a thing that I sort of saw, is like, people don't really. I had another guy on from Toronto University, and he was just telling me about all the different like groups and activities and entrepreneurship clubs and business clubs, and like all the connections, like because the universities are really well connected with their alums. And you can probably, like, as a student, you're able to talk to some pretty high profile, like business owners and entrepreneurs and investors and other stuff like that. So using everything that the school has is a huge like benefit to you if you decide to go to university, right? Like leverage the shit out of your university, like with your profs, with your alum, with like getting to speaking to people, using all the resources. Like, and I absolutely love that you brought that up, because I think that's going to add a ton of value to people that are listening. I sort of want to jump now to Quanta Vici. I sort of think like that sort of started from did that sort of start from your friend who was having she was having the migraines, and like, yeah, so it led from that. Why don't we talk a little bit about like, how did you actually build that company, like with investor? Like, did you use some of your own capital? Did you actually have to go out and raise capital, putting the team together, actually product design and all that sort of stuff?
I love talking about this. This is one of the main reasons I made my YouTube channel, because I even had advisors who kind of quit on me because of the level of complexity of Quanta Vici. I'm not saying Quanta Vici is the most complex startup that has ever existed in the history of startups, but it's certainly challenging, because here we have clothing, and it's not just like gloves, it's also socks, and we have different factories for both our gloves and also socks, because you can just have a factory that does both of them, but then the quality is not going to be great gloves and great socks. It's just going to be like mediocre. And on the other side, we have the heating system, we have the battery, we have the smart controller, which is the main unique technology that we are bringing to this industry, bringing software to apparel. And on top of all of this, having the hardware and software for the device, we have the app. Some companies are just about the app, and going to advisors, that's kind of why they quit on us. They were like, why don't you just start from offering a service or an app? So I love talking about this. How did we start? you know, Mark Zuckerberg has an interview where he says, just make mistakes. You know, there is no way around it. You cannot not make mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying at all. And if you're not trying, you're not moving at all. And that's the only way to guarantee not getting anywhere is not even trying. So I was comfortable making mistakes. There are also a lot of different people coming to you confidently, telling you, hey, you should do this, you should do that. And they are people who are way more experienced and smarter than you, but that doesn't really guarantee that they will be correct. So kind of being stubborn plays a role in it. Building the Quanta Vici team is actually very relevant to the stuff we just talked about in terms of education and acquiring skills. You know, being an entrepreneur, you really need to be open to acquiring different skills. It is overwhelming when you connect with someone. For example, you want to make an app. Let's say you're a Android developer already, but you need an iOS developer. You find this talented person on LinkedIn, let's say, and you want to connect and partner on this software development project. And it can be overwhelming because you're like, okay, do I need to have a company? Do I have to have a registered HST number? How do I like deal with them? How do I interview them? How do I make the contract? What if the guy is like running a scam and blah, 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 blah. Like all of these things are going through your head for the first time. The reason I'm saying building my team at Quanta Vici has a lot to do with the skill-focused education system I just talked about, is because you know, I really see this pattern that we are kind of transitioning from this classic career model to a skill-based career model with websites like freelancer.com, Upwork, Fiverr. We see this time after time. And also like even the huge and amazing increase in entrepreneurship. A lot of entrepreneurs are just offering their services. You know, I have a friend who's an entrepreneur. He's solely focused on photography. And that's also like contributing to this whole skill-based industry. And building Quanta Vici, you know, one of the craziest things is that even till today, we do not have investors. For me, coming from where I come from, you know, I was not born in Canada. You know, when we moved here, I was just growing as my parents are growing with me. You know, it's a beautiful thing, and at the same time, it's very challenging. So you don't really understand a lot of things. You know, you don't know anyone. You don't have any connections. So that's not the only thing required for raising capital, but it's a big part of it. You know, I would contact investors and I wouldn't hear back. And then I would do research, and turns out if investors, like 99% of the time or even more, they will only reply to you if you're a warm lead. So if someone they know and trust has introduced you to them. And you know, they have the right to be that way, because I myself am like getting a crazy amount of emails, and I feel horrible not being able to open most of them. And I'm not even an investor, you know, I'm just like some guy who had a successful Kickstarter. And so building Quanta Vici, I had to really use all of my disadvantages, taking advantage of all of the disadvantages. What does that mean? It means that instead of getting an investor that allows me to hire someone full-time and going under that pressure of hiring this person full-time, providing employee benefits, HR, and all of that stuff, office space, I realized that I have to really rely on skill-based perspective. So a lot of the skills I had to acquire myself. For example, the discipline of being able to communicate properly, being able to plan the project, being able to understand how to use deductive reasoning to understand what my project needs of me. I want to have hidden variables. What do I need to understand? I need to understand the market. I need to understand what are the shortcomings of my competitors. How can I address them? Okay, so now I realize I have to make it have a better battery life. For example, our products, instead of 2 hours, we are the only ones who offer 6 hours minimum up to days of battery life, and that's crazy. So next, you want to kind of rationalize, how can I offer this? The only way you can offer this is by making the technology efficient. How can you make it efficient? So, you really have to be hands-on. You have to be willing to go out there, not get overwhelmed by anything. There are, whatever you get overwhelmed about, just think about it. Like, there are millions of people who you may be smarter than, that are doing that with ease. So, it's not even about intelligence. It's about giving in your heart and just going after it. And so, building Quanta Vici, I'm kind of like sharing tips instead of this story. I don't know if that's helpful, but if I want to kind of say it in a story way, starting out, I tried to do the hardware myself. I had my own challenges with it. And then, again, no investors would invest. Fortunately, that's why I say Ryerson played a huge role. Ryerson had this innovation competition that has 3 stages. First stage is just ideation. Second stage is, I think, market validation. And the last stage is commercialization. And each stage, they actually give money. And it's like $5,000, $8,000, and $25,000. And so I was fortunate enough to win that. And when we were just starting the project, I had not saved up enough money to be able to pay for these contracts myself. So winning that award kind of gave me some room to allow me to experiment and make mistakes. So I hired one freelancer to help me with the hardware design, just looking for freelancers all over the world, going through the LinkedIn, freelancer.com, all of these freelance platforms. And it came down to realizing that I made a lot of mistakes doing that. I actually made a video. The video turned out to be 56 minutes, so I put it into 3 parts. It's on YouTube. Over these years, I designed a process how to work with others, and understanding your project, what it requires of you, and understanding how to reach out to the people who are qualified for the job, understanding how to communicate with them, your needs, your expectations, understanding how to follow through with the milestones. There's like so many different things involved. Over time, you put these things together bit by bit. Right now, we do not have any full-time employees at Quanta Vici. We've never had any full-time employees. The only full-time employee is myself. At any given time, we have nearly 20 contractors who are solely working with us based on the skills they bring to the table. And most of our team, our engineering and design happens in Toronto. But for example, for marketing, for certain design work, we have people all over the world, from US, from Germany, and so on. And yeah, if you could guide me to focus on a specific area doing all of this, it would be easier to explain, because right now I have like an explosion of
ideas
things I've learned.
yeah, like where you want to
Yeah.
go. Yeah. No, 100%. And I was just listening to what you were saying, and I was like, I was just listening. I was like, it's really interesting how your brain sort of works, right? And I was just listening to you, how talking about it and how you approach this, like you approached it in a very like logical, like thought out plan about how I'm going to build this company. And even though investors were turning you down, and all this stuff where it was like, it looks like it's not going to happen, right? Like it's like I don't have the money. I don't like how can I start? Like like all this type of stuff. But you just like you kept going, you kept moving forward. And like anybody who's successful, like they just figure out a way to do it, right? You'll like if you're passionate enough and you want to do something, you'll figure out a way to do it, no matter like what it takes. Like different, like you used, right? You went to the university, you found out about these competitions, you won the competition. So all that type of stuff is like really, really interesting. And I thought like, I was just listening to you, how you're talking, how you're laying it out. I was like, okay, this like that. It's a very smart way of doing it. So I know we have a little bit, like we have a little bit of time left here. I sort of like, I would actually love to, have you back on the podcast at a later date and jump like, just doing a podcast, just jumping into like, Quanta Vici, and pretty much how the business came around, in a little bit more detail, and you're working through it, and you're like, jumping a little bit more in depth, with like your business and where you want to go. But yeah, just to wrap it up here, like what are your future plans with the company, and where do you guys see yourself, like where do you see yourself going in the next like 4 to 5 years?
Okay. I could spend just like 5 hours talking about that before I pass out. um, just to add to what you just said, fading over and over, that innovation award, I must have like applied 4 or 5 times until I won it. Like there was a lot of failures there too, but mindset is the number one thing in this. Like if you're not in the right mindset, if failure doesn't motivate you to work more, or you don't find a way to make it feel that way, then it doesn't work. So mindset is a huge deal. And me, my advisors, my people, everyone, we're constantly studying this, trying to understand ourselves, how we can kind of push ourselves beyond our limit. It doesn't mean you have to sleep 3 hours a night. It just means, how do you recover from failures, mistakes, or just any obstacle? And going to the question about Quanta Vici's future, going back to the mission statement, Quanta Vici, we are, as it started as a solution for medical conditions that are negatively affected by cold weather, we had a lot of people reach out to us, for example, because of their arthritis, because of their poor blood circulation, Raynaud's disease, all of these medical conditions that benefit from heated wearables. And something else that kind of was apparent to us was, even if we had, Quanta Vici's products are not just medical, but even if we had only focused on the medical aspect of things, people would not have bought our products if they looked medical. So, making it look beautiful, making it with such design and material that when you wear it, you feel empowered, you feel beautiful, you feel happy and proud to be wearing that, has a lot to do with it. So that's kind of the logical reason why Quanta Vici has this rather luxurious branding to it. So that's a huge part of the company's future. Research is also a big part of it. In terms of the current products that we have, smart heated wearables, or just smart apparel in general, we launched these products to become the go-to heated wearables, not just for the direct consumer, but also for businesses. So we have designed these models where if a startup, or if a construction company, or if a sports company, or if a big brand like let's say Adidas wants to license our technology or use it in their line of products, they would be able to do so. And the reason for that is because people in fashion, as I've learned, obviously not everyone, but most people in fashion get overwhelmed by technology, and that's kind of why I see a lack of technological advancement in the fashion industry. So we're taking collaboration over competition. We are offering these solutions to fashion industry, sport industry, all of these different industries that do not want to pivot and risk taking on R&D for technology. And, I can confidently say that there is a market for this, and we will become the go-to smart heated wearable for anyone in the world, whether they have the medical needs, whether they just want to go outside for a walk and their hands get cold. And that's the future we have for these smart heated wearables, to become the go-to for everyone. And in terms of other products, I'm going to try not to give too much away, but jewelry has been something that is fun and meaningful in its own sense, but lacks function. It lacks, function. Just, it's kind of useless. It just looks pretty. And smart jewelry is something that I'm already revealing too much, but smart jewelry is something that we want to explore. Now, switching back to the entrepreneur side, these methods that I talk about on my YouTube channel for market validation, we're going to be using those. And I think I'm going to be kind of taking an open source venture creation approach and sharing a lot of these behind the scenes happening, how we do market validation, how we just take the product to production market. And that's another line of products that we want to explore, because again, jewelry is something that people love to wear. It's beautiful, it's fun to have, but it's not aligned with the company mission that we have, which is expanding the senses and abilities. And with our smart technologies, I think we can fix that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, like I'm pretty excited to hear more about this. I would love to have you back on a podcast to talk just about, like, we've sort of covered your story, how you got into like the tech space, but having you back on to talk about, like your business in more detail, where you guys are going, and diving deep into like, like all the stuff you're talking about on your YouTube and stuff about, like, market research, bringing a product, like bringing an idea to pretty much a finished product line and then going on to the marketing and all that sort of stuff, and your expertise, I think would be a really interesting podcast. But we'll wrap it up here just as for timing and stuff. But it's been absolutely amazing having you on the show, Adrien. Where can people actually find out more about you, your company, your YouTube channel, and anything, other social media platforms?
I'm on YouTube and Instagram. If you just search my name, it comes up. Adrien Beyk, Adrien Beyk. And Quanta Vici, we have the website. We are also on Indiegogo right now. Quanta Vici, Quantavici. I hope I didn't mess that up. And that's where you can find me. I try to answer all of my emails and messages and DMs. It's really important for me to be as generous as my mentors have been with me when it comes to my knowledge and skills and network. So if there are anyone who are on the same path, who share this mindset, who share these passions for wanting to innovate, to help people, help make the world a better place, if I can be of help, it would be my absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Well, yeah, like I was saying again, it's been an absolute pleasure, man.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. It was lovely chatting with you today.